Hello friends, this is Kumar and I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel. Friends, in our last video we discussed the first 5 stanzas of Snapshots of a Daughter-in-Law by Adrienne Rich. In this video I am going to complete the last 5 stanzas of this poem and we are going to sum up this poem in this video. So let us start the video. Bent to her lute Corinna sings. Lute is a stringed musical instrument with an ornament molded neck and a hollow pear-shaped body with a vaulted back. Neither words nor music are her own. Here a woman does not even get the chance to express her creative impulses. They have to borrow words and even music from men while singing a song. Only the long hair dipping over her cheek, only the song of silk against her knees, and these adjusted in reflections of an eye. The only appreciation the women get is not for their individual talent, but for their beauty. Poised, trembling, and unsatisfied before an unlocked door, that cage of cages. Tell us, you word, you tragical machine, is this fertilizante dolor? Pinned down by love and for you, the only natural action. Are you edged more keen to prize the secrets of the bolt? Has nature shown her household books to you, daughter-in-law, that her sons never saw? Here, these lines evoke the image of a woman as a caged bird. She is unsatisfied and nervous about her life in the household, although she tries to maintain her poise. However, her life in her unlocked cage only breeds sorrow and she is eventually buried beneath it. That cage of cages, the household is like an eternal cage or prison for women. You tragical machine. As a caged bird, a woman's life is a perpetual tragedy. Fertilizante dolor is a French phrase. Fertilizante means fertilizing and dolor implies pain. As a tragic machine, a woman only fertilizes or perpetuates sorrows and not the real spirit of life. Pinned down by love, for you the only natural action. The love and devotion to the household is stipulated as the natural behavior of a woman. Pinned down carries the sense of being enchained. The daughter-in-law is chained down to the house for her entire life. Are you edged more keen to prize the secrets of the bold? It is as if only the women have the ability to understand and resolve the mechanism of the household, which is like a secret vault for men. Has nature shown her household books to you, daughter-in-law, that her sons never saw? Through this rhetorical question, the poet asserts the equal responsibility of both women and men towards domestic management. Adrienne wants women to become conscious of their rights as well as their being, as the patriarchal model of their life is a crafted one and is not natural in essence. In this section, women are positioned against men vis-a-vis household obligations. Nature is ironically personified as a woman with grown-up sons and daughter-in-law, but no daughters. Unlike men, women are placed outside the hub of activities in the external world as creatures bound only to love and serve the household. The story of Corinna, a Greek poet from 6th century BC, is employed by the poet to show how the even most accomplished women are forced to conform to the patriarchal standards. Corinna is supposed to have defeated the Theban poet Pindar 5 times in poetry competitions, so that the latter, out of frustration, called her a sow. Now let us read the 7th stanza of this poem. To have in this uncertain world some stay, which cannot be undermined, is of the utmost consequence. This poeticized epigraph is a modest proposal from Wollstonecraft's thoughts on the education of daughters. Adrien uses this quote to assert that women must have something rock solid to cling to in their lives in order to make it at least bearable, if not exceptional. The poet too had a life as a housewife, but it is her life as a poet which made it of consequence. Thus wrote a woman. A woman is Mary Wollstonecraft. A woman partly brave and partly good, who fought with what she partly understood. Few men about her would or could do more, hence she was labelled harpy, shrew, and bore. Harpy is ill-tempered, quarrelsome woman. Shrew is a woman of violent temperament and speech. So, in this section, it is a snapshot of Mary Wollstonecraft, the 18th century English writer, philosopher, and activist who fought for the rights of women. Her most valuable work is A Vindication of the Rights of Women, 1792, in which she argues that women are not naturally inferior to men. They merely appear to be so because they lack education. She pleaded for a higher social order based on rationality wherein both men and women are treated equally. Mary followed an unorthodox lifestyle, including some unconventional personal relationships which tended to detract from the sheer force and quality of her vision and work. She was even labeled harpy, shrew, and bore. Now let us read the 8th stanza. You all die at 15, said Diderot, and turn part legend, part convention. The notion of a free and happy life becomes a legend as women are hemmed in by conventional role of a wife and homemaker after marriage. Still eyes inaccurately dream behind closed windows blackening with steam. The dreams of their youth still linger in their eyes. However, these are made double blank by the windows and the steam rising in the kitchen. Deliciously, all that we might have been, all that we were, fire, tears, wit, taste, martyred ambition. The thoughts of all they could have accomplished in a more conventional word make them dejected. Martyred ambition means ambition sacrificed at the domestic altar. Stirs like the memory of refused adultery. Here the women even begin to feel guilty about their lurking desires. The drained and flagging bosom of our middle years. The desires of youth, however, continue to linger as the women pass into middle age. So this section opens with the lines presumably taken from a letter written by the French Enlightenment writer Denis Diderot, who wrote to a young woman, "You all die at 15. The young girls are free and happy as adolescents, but die a metaphorical death at the age of 15, which was traditionally regarded as the right age for their marriage. Their desires and aspirations are trampled down in order to make a new life with man, but these remain alive in their subconscious, adding to the distress of women." Now let us read the 9th stanza. Note that it is done well, but that it is done at all. So this may be viewed as feminist rehashing of a quote from Samuel Johnson, which is satirical of women's ability to indulge in serious affairs. Sir, a woman's preaching is like a dog's walking on his hind legs. It is not done well, but you are supposed to find it done at all. The poet suggests that women should at least make an effort to achieve something against the backdrop of male domination, even if they succeed only partially in their enterprise. Yes, think of the odds or shrug them forever. This luxury of the precocious child, time's precious chronic invalid. This luxury of the precocious child means even young women tend to behave like mature women. Although it appears to be convenient in the beginning and women rejoice in it when praised by men, it subsequently becomes difficult to shrug off the role of a daughter-in-law. Precocious means exhibiting maturity at an early age. Times precious chronic invalid. Would we, darlings, resign if we could? The women are subverted into time chronic invalid as they are regularly sucked into household affairs. The question posited here is again a rhetorical one, as the poet doubts whether women could even liberate themselves from stereotypes given by chance. Our blight has been our sinecure. Blight means a diseased state. Blight is a disease that causes the leaves of a plant to dry or curl up. Sinecure means a job or a position which requires little work. The reference to the domestic routine of a woman which does not satisfy her individual potential. Mere talent was enough for us. The women were praised for their supposed talents which men took a fancy to, but they were not accorded the time or space to exercise their actual talents. Glitter in fragments and rough drafts. The accomplishments of most women are at best mediocre in the given circumstances. Sigh no more, ladies. It means women should no longer settle for mediocrity. Time is male, and in his cups drinks to the fair. Bemused by gallantry, be here our mediocres overpraised. Indolence read as abnegation. Slattern thought styled intuition. Slattern thought styled intuition. Every lapse forgiven. The world continues to be in the patriarchal mode where men control everything, with women seen as slatterns who are to be forgiven for their ordinary transgressions. Men merely salute women's beauty but never their minds. Gallantry means polite attention shown by a man to a woman. Indolence means inclination to laziness. And abnegation means denial, especially self-denial. Slattern is used here in the sense of sloppy, slattern thoughts. Intuition is the ability to know something without proof or evidence, the ability to act in a certain way without any logical precedence. Our crime only to cast too bold a shadow or smash the mold straight off. It is, however, a crime when women try to cast off stereotyped modes of behavior and have to face retribution for that. For that, solitary confinement, tear gas, attrition shelling. Few applicants for that honor. For that, solitary confinement, tear gas, attrition shelling. Few applicants for that honor. The different forms of punishment that women may have to face for being applicants for honor. Confinement, tear gas and shelling. In this section, the poet regrets that most women are content to conform to patriarchal standards of living. They are duped into believing that they are happy and significant by the flattery of men, which blinds them to their own mediocrity, as they do not strive to achieve anything substantial for themselves. Only a few women are able to resist the mechanisms of patriarchy to pave their own way, even if their work is martyred like that of Mary Wollstonecraft. However, such work amounts to a tremendous achievement, as even time and history are mere dominated conceptions. Now let us read the last and 10th stanza of this poem. Well, she is long about her coming, who must be more merciless to herself than history. Here, the poet has made an announcement of the possible emancipation of women. However, women must struggle hard to cast off the stereotypes associated with them by history. She must be harsh with herself. She must give up the luxury of dwelling in mediocrities and takes a plunge into the future with the full force of her mind and strength. Her mind full to the wind, I see her plunge, breasted and glancing through the currents. It is an allusion to the process of swimming across strong currents, signifying the harsh circumstances in life, taking the light upon her. It is acquiring fresh knowledge and it means acquiring fresh knowledge and awareness implicit in the use of light. At least as beautiful as any boy or helicopter, poised, still coming, her fine blades making the air winds. The image of a boy stands for the desire and the ability to explore and experiment as opposed to the typified role of a woman. It implies a redefinition of a woman's role, including her sexuality. The image of a helicopter stands in sharp contrast to the earlier image of a bird. Even when a bird is not caged, its flight is limited to the natural terrain only. However, a helicopter, with its machine ability or higher power, literally forces the wind to submit to its routers to rise higher and higher into the sky. Thus, both boy and helicopter become apt metaphors for the emergence of the new woman. Poised means ready or prepared for something. Her, the helicopter, is viewed in feministic terms. Wins means to embarrass or frustrate. But her cargo, no promise then, delivered palpable hours. The emergence of a new woman is not just a nebulous promise, it is something palpable and will be delivered as common inheritance of all women. So, our final section concludes on a note of hope as it prophesies the emergence of a new woman. This new woman will be successful in negotiating and overcoming the contradictions of her life and negate the history associated with her image. The poet asserts that this new woman will be at least as beautiful as any boy or helicopter. This partakes of a redefinition of sex and humanness. The images of boy and helicopter suggest a playful and explorative orientation towards life as well as the desire and the ability to move beyond the restricted domain. Adrienne articulates a fresh vision of a thinking woman who no longer sleeps with monsters. So, our poem ends here. I hope you understand the poem very well. If you like the video, if you understand the poem, please like, share and comment on the video. Please subscribe the channel for such further updates. This much all in this lecture. We will soon join with another lecture of another poem of another writer. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay tuned for further updates.